mostly. Today is February, January. January 10th, and this is the 100th WX Live webinar. And Uncle Pete keeps cheering us on with all his sessions. And today he's going to talk about the pitfalls of clickable images. So here you go. And starting in February, we're probably going to go back to our regular time because I think we had more people able to attend than now. So it was worth the try. But beginning in February, we'll probably go back to 5:30 a.m. Pacific time. So all yours.
All right. So today's going to be a relatively short one, and it was supposed to be, a 5-minute little project for me that turned into 2 days. And Arnold, I know you've had this happen to you. Somebody makes a request, and you go, no problem. I can knock that out in
Easy.
5 minutes. It's one line of code. 2 days later, you're so far down the rabbit hole you don't even remember what the original request was. That's kind of the way this thing happened to me. The original request was we wanted to indicate on the save button. We had a save button that performed a couple of different functions depending on different logic. So we wanted to indicate that on the save button. Easy enough. Button name ... caption equals whatever the new caption is. Easy peasy. Knock it out. Head to lunch. Wrong. That actually works. And I'll show you what I've got here is a little bit of code. I'm changing the caption to save now, and changing the color to light red and making it bold. Okay, so let's run this page. Drag that over. And if we click on that, we'll see that the button changed to save now, and it's red, and it bolded the text. Simple, easy, no problem. That's exactly what I thought. I'm done. Head to lunch. Phone rings. Why does the save button look funny? What do you mean the save button looks funny? Well, after a lot of arguing, we determined that everyone on this site ran IE. And if we look at that button in IE, notice that save is up there at the top now. Even before I execute the code, save isn't lining up properly on the button anymore. And this is only IE. This is one of those, I hate IE. I wish all the browsers could work the same arguments. So what the heck is going on? And just so that, let me show you real quick, because this is really important concept to grasp. All I'm going to do is comment out this code that is setting the caption. And now let's run that in IE again. And now you'll see that the save button looks proper. Now remember, that code that I commented out is behind this button. It hasn't been executed. But just the fact that I've got code on the page that is going to change that caption, WebDev generated the HTML code for that save button slightly different. And we can actually look at that if we do inspect element. We'll see this. This is for our button that we're looking at, the save button. It's doing this span, style, margin, 4 pixels, display block, line height 15 pixels, and the word save. Now watch what happens as soon as I re-enable that line of code. Now if we inspect that element, and now you see that it's instead of doing all of the style code in line, it's using this class button vertical align middle CCS class instead, or cascading style sheet class. So just the fact that WebDev sees that there's some code, I've got some code that's changing the caption of that button, it decided it needed to generate the HTML code slightly different. And because of that difference, something in this cascading style class is not making IE happy, and it's causing that text to not align properly any longer. Could have battled and maybe figured it out how to solve that with CSS code. This was about a year ago that we ran into this problem. In fact, it was on 17. And the problem doesn't seem quite as bad in 18 as it did in 17, but it obviously is still here. Because I think in 17 we were actually seeing the problem with Chrome as well. So anyway, I decided that no problem. What I'm going to do is convince them, hey, let's use images to indicate it instead. So let's throw up a check mark, and we'll start with the check mark being gray, and then we'll make the check mark bright red once it's ready, that a true save needs to be done. So if we run that code, we see that it's gray right now, and we can turn it to green. Now that's pretty simple to do. All we're doing is, this is a clickable image, and you create that clickable image by coming up here to creation, dropping down image, and you have a clickable image. And then you set what the image is, and then if we look at the code behind make green, we'll see that all I'm doing there is I'm changing the image property to green check instead of gray check. And notice I'm doing that in the browser code. If you try to do that in the server code, it doesn't work properly. You have to do it in the browser code so that you actually see the change immediately. But as you see, that definitely worked. So, in the production app that I'm talking about, the situation was far more complex, and there were a lot more moving pieces, but you still get the concept of what we were trying to do. All we're trying to do is somehow, via some logic, indicate a difference in the button. So once again, thought I was done, tested that with IE, said, hey, I'm not going to get fooled twice on this IE thing. Well, if you test it, that green checkbox does work in IE. Great. Publish it, off to lunch with that problem. Wrong again. You're starting to wonder how I ever got fat as many times as lunch gets interrupted, right? So we take a look.
I'm getting hungry, man. I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, it is lunchtime for you, isn't it? So now the next problem I ran into with the clickable image is, obviously our save button is going to have some logic dealing with the values that are on the screen and so forth. So for my intents and purposes here, this demonstration, all I'm going to do is show you what's in the edit controls with a trace statement. And of course I want that to be AJAX enabled. because I don't want to do a full page refresh. So, and then I've got that exact same code. Actually, right now I don't. Let me modify this around to the other code. So I've got that exact same code on the image as well. And, yep. Okay, so now let's run it. So we type in a value here, click Save, look at our trace window, and as you see, we see what the values are. All right, but if instead we run it, and click the checkbox instead, we see that we don't have any values for our edit controls. So obviously, if we're trying to, if this is a save button that needs to deal with the edit controls, we're in trouble here because we don't have the values of the edit controls. Why is that? What the heck's happening now? Well, the issue is if we look at the general tab of the button, you see this little section here? Send the value of the controls to the server. Submit. That is what triggers it. It's like a form submit in the old HTML days. That is what's causing the values of the controls to get into the server code so that server code knows what those values are. Our problem is if we come over here and look at the clickable image, that option is not available anywhere on here. We can look in all these different tabs. It doesn't exist. So our clickable image does not submit the values to the server. Therefore, they don't get updated with whatever someone has typed in new into the edit controls. So that is the first problem I ran into with clickable images. So I started experimenting from there. The next thing I did was say, okay, instead of running the click code for the clickable image, just run the click code for the save button directly. That's one of the options that you have on this action drop down. So let's test that, see what that does for us. Type in something, click it. All right, we didn't get our values, but what's even worse, notice how what I typed in here went away? The reason for that is because the way that click got executed, when we choose here and tell it to run the server click code of the button, it does it in a non-AJAX manner, which caused an entire page refresh. So that option doesn't help us. So my next thought was, well, okay, I know how to press a button from code. Let's do that instead. So instead of the trace statements, I'll just press the save button from this code, and then I would just make the save button a hidden button off the screen. So that way, when you click this button, it'll click this button, that button submitting the values, life should be good. At least that's what I thought. So let's test that option. Type something in, click the green check, and we still don't get the values. And This one, my explanation for the issue there is kind of a little bit of black magic. I can't find anywhere in the documentation that necessarily says one way or the other. All I can tell you is when I start having Ajax-enabled code executing other Ajax-enabled code, which is what the code here is, once you get into that second and third layer of Ajax-enabled code, things just start getting a little hinky. And I wind up not getting the results I want. A variable, I have a different value. It's like it's in a little bit of a different memory space. It's that browser server divide becomes a little different when we're in Ajax mode versus non-Ajax mode. So what wound up working for me was if I press that button, because pressing that save button works if I press it manually. Well, that means it's a browser event. So if I do it as a browser code, and then I get rid of all the server code, and then I change this to none so that it doesn't, setting this action to none means that it's only going to execute the browser code. It's not going to do any server code behind here. So this is the exact same line of code, the execute process, press the save button, but now I'm pressing it via browser code. And now if we run it, we get our values. So at this point, you could hide the save button off the screen, and now you've got a clickable image that you can change the color of and still get your save action to work properly, getting the values of your forms. So just a few extra little subtle pieces you have to do when you're messing with a clickable image. Now, I will warn you, in the production project, and I didn't go as far as to try to reproduce it in this example. Again, this was almost a year ago that we ran into this issue, and it was on 17. And the production project had 4 different loopers on the screen and a lot of different Ajax code being executed, so it was far more complicated example. But when I had all of this type of logic working, and it worked perfectly, we could test it in the IDE, just like we're doing here. But when I published that project to the production server, and we actually ran the code on the production server just through the regular browser, it all would work, the save logic would execute, everything would get saved, but access for the browser never came back. It was like the browser would lock up at that point. And I suspect it had something to do with the layer of Ajaxes that we had going at that point. Somewhere we just got stuck on the server side of the Ajax and never could get back to the browser. So we had to take it a couple of steps further and do some timers and do time events to press the button, which you've seen me do that in a couple of other webinars. But again, I suspect that you may not ever run into that problem. I don't think that was necessarily a problem of the clickable image thing as much as it was just the amount of crazy stuff that was going on in the particular screen that we were dealing with on that project. But just be aware when you're dealing with clickable images on a WebDev form that you're also got edit controls and those sort of things, that if you don't go through some kind of process like this, you're not going to be able to reference those values in your server code. And that's it. Told you it was going to be a quick one today, Arnold.
hungry. Boy, that's some catches there. You know, you can get your
Yeah. It's, like I said, of course, it was a far more complex amount of logic and stuff in the production app, and we wasted about 2 days trying to change the caption of a button.
Mm.
It's great having project managers that are OCD.
Okay.
I tried my best to convince them that the save button looked fine with the text at the top. We'll just change all the buttons to look like that. No go.
No go.
No go.
So, any questions, anybody? If not, we're off to 101 next week. Okay, John Armstrong says very useful, Pete. So the rule is never have your code click a browser button after a server event has already been triggered.
I don't know if it's that hard, fast a rule, and again, it depends on whether the events are Ajax enabled or not. But in general terms, once you get down into your Ajax code, if you try to then affect something else from the screen, be it pressing a button, doing other Ajax code, it's almost like it runs in its own memory space. And even though you saw the commands execute, you saw that the submit values did not happen. So it's like some kind of divide has taken place. And the only description it makes any sense to me is it's kind of like it's in a different memory space. So it's not a hard, fast rule by any means, and I've never been able to find any documentation that clearly defines these issues with Ajax. But I've dealt with it enough to know to be wary anytime I start down that road, and I just test.
Just typing. Hey, you guys have the mics.
It helps to keep a live chicken and a candle handy.
Yeah, you guys have the mics on, so you can turn on the mic and talk too. Either way. Oh, he says thanks. I'll try and remember this. Alrighty, Pete. Thanks again, and I will. Oh, I got to post your last. We told people we would stall and not put it up right away, but I don't think that's going to work.
You were struggling with your workstation, yeah.
I still am.
Still am.
Yeah. So, but I will put them up, and
was that Tim said something?
Yeah, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a website.
Speak up, young man.
Can you hear me?
Hardly.
Can you hear me?
Oh, that was better.
Okay, how's now? Okay, I have a website that I have issues, or I have people that have issues clicking links and buttons if they're using IE, but we don't have any trouble at all with Firefox or Chrome.
What happens when they click the link?
Nothing. It's like a dead link.
I would be almost willing to bet that you've got a JavaScript error on the page. If you look through the IE tools, you can get to the JavaScript console. I'll bet you've got a JavaScript error. A lot of times, just by how you name a variable, somewhere in your browser code, you've got some kind of issue that's causing, because all your browser code gets changed into JavaScript code. And if something goes wrong with your JavaScript code, it breaks the JavaScript engine, it quits executing, and all of your links are JavaScript links. When you look at a button, and let me.
Is that without warning too, huh? PHP is kind of like that.
Yeah,
I think you never know what happened. It just stops.
Yeah, I think that's probably a setting in IE of whether you get those JavaScript errors or not. But of course, we all turn them off because 10 years ago, half the sites we went to gave us errors. But if you notice, when I hover over the Save button, look in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you see that it's executing JavaScript _A3 _CLI parenthesis parenthesis. So what that is it's taken the code that I have behind that Save button, translated it to JavaScript, named it by a procedure name _A3 _CLI, and then that button is executing that JavaScript code. So if you've got a JavaScript issue, obviously now all of a sudden none of the JavaScript, because what IE does is it goes into like a safe mode and it just shuts off JavaScript. So now your JavaScript's no longer running, so none of your buttons work.
Okay, thanks for the heads up. Thanks for the tip on that.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not sure how you get into it in IE, but somewhere there will be development tools that let you see what those JavaScript errors are.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Yep. Anyone else? All right then. See? Quick and painless today. Hey, Wolfgang, you're way too late, buddy.
Oh my God.
We're already done.
Yeah, what, did he want to start 101? Oh, Lord. Sorry, Wolfgang. Next time. Oh, Brian's showing up too, so let's do it again.
Yeah, wow.
Sorry.
Oh, man, guys.
You lose.
Got caught in traffic.
Now you gotta wait 3 weeks for the recording because that's the rule now. No, I'll get it up this weekend.
Thanks, you want to torture me now?
Yes, I do.
Nasty.
Not really, but it's the way it is. All right, time for lunch.
All right.
And no other questions? Like, does somebody want Pete to summarize what he talked about today? No, I'm only kidding. We're done for today, and thank you guys for showing up for our number 100. That was really good. Even though you were late, that was thank you.
Yeah, we'll still count him as part of our attendance.
Yes, and they're on the recording, so we didn't stop the recording yet. So you're Terry's on. What is going on? Did I not make it clear?
Wow.
Like, is noon?
We got a bunch of guys that can't tell time, huh?
That's the problem. If you shift the time, I have to start working out.
Okay. This is what we talked about early on too. That as of February, the first meeting, we're going to move back to 5:30 in the morning. So this noontime thing is messing too many people up, and we're just not getting it's messing people up. It's messing up Pete and me too. So.
Yeah, it's right in the middle of mine and Arnold's day, and just really kills productivity for the whole day.
So we're gonna shift back to early, so that Wolfgang can do his talks.
Okay. All right.
Alrighty.
How is your season wrapping up, Wolfgang? We're gonna get to see a couple webinars out of you again soon.
Yeah, just out of after February, but mid-February, like. But I'll make a plan and get one out again.
Yeah, get your series going again, man.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, definitely looking forward to it.
I like your series because it's for common folk like me, not
and to straighten my thinking out too. So there you go.
Okie doke.
Okay.
No questions, no further questions. We will move on.
Thanks
What
anyway,
did I do? Terry, what does he mean? What did I do?
He
showed
heard
up half
his
an hour
name
late.
mentioned. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks again, and have a great weekend, everybody. Stopping.
All right, guys.
Okay. Thank you, Pete.
Yep.
Thanks, Pete.